The one who starts the war always declares they want peace, somehow forgetting to mention it is always a peace on their terms. Good afternoon, this is Henry Keane back to UATV English 2024 to break the hardest of truth in easiest of terms for the whole free world from Ukraine, directly, as usual. As the fourth meeting of national security advisors is going to take place in mid-January, we in Ukraine are especially focused on the discussion of the points from 6 to 10 of the Ukrainian initiative. It will be a continuation of the fruitful dialogue which we had during the meeting on Malta in October on points from 1 to 5 of the Ukrainian peace formula. Why is the Ukrainian peace formula the only way to peace? Well, because we do not want any peace at any terms. The Ukrainian peace formula is the only way to a comprehensive, just and lasting peace. And that is exactly what we want. Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity within internationally recognized borders. That is what we are demanding. Russia must withdraw all of its military forces from the temporarily occupied territories and cease the hostilities against Ukraine. That is what we are demanding, and that is what it is stated in point 6 of the Ukrainian peace formula. Any so-called peace plans which do not take into account these provisions are nothing but a Russian recipe for peace on their terms, that is prolonging the war. Putin and his clique just don't show a slightest desire to negotiate anything but full destruction of Ukraine. Every negotiate right now on any terms only makes him dig in our ground deeper. Well, don't get me wrong. I don't mind if that would be really Putin himself digging himself 6 feet under Ukrainian ground, but unfortunately, he has an army. And he must be stopped. The Russian Federation must be stopped. Their natural-born Russian death wish and aggression must be stopped, as it is destroying everything it touches, including the environment, by the way, and we are talking about that in the point 8 of our peace formula. Putin personally must be held to account for all high crimes and misdemeanors, if you like, against international law and against Ukraine. That is point 7 of formula. In order to prevent the escalation of the war or the repetition of aggression, strong obligations and security commitments and arrangements should be created and provided to Ukraine. That is point 9 is all about.
Just as our weapons must be long-range enough, so must our diplomacy, our defense of international law and justice be effective enough. This means involving the widest possible range of international actors in our joint work. We are working to ensure that the peace formula brings together even more states to make security commitments for Ukraine as effective as possible. By the time we end this war, stability and security must be indisputable.
Peace could be achieved when this war of aggression starts hurting Russia much more than it does now. Then it is just and fair peace. When sanctions, financial losses and defeats on the battlefield will start to matter to Russians on the streets, as the Kremlin just doesn't care. Then it will be possible to force Moscow to stop its deadly aggression and to return respect to the goals and principles of the UN Charter, thus confirming the end of the war, and that the point 10 of Ukrainian peace formula. ISW, Institute for the Study of War, have indicated that Russia may be using the prison exchange on 3rd January 2024 to show that it is, I quote, interested in operating within the bounds of international law and norms, close of quotes, despite the obvious facts of multiple abuses against Ukrainian prisoners of war in violation of the Geneva Convention. Well, Institute's guess is absolutely right. Russia is using everything and anything, in spite of obvious facts, as the Kremlin badly needs to be looking as a lawful entity and not what it actually is, a usurped power, nothing more. Russia and Ukraine held a POWs swap on 3rd January, which became the largest ever during the full-scale war yet and the first official exchange of prisoners of war since August 2023. Dmytro Lubinets, Verkhovna Rada Commissioner for Human Rights, later clarified that 230 Ukrainian servicemen had returned as part of the 49th exchange of prisoners of war since the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, announced that more than 200 Ukrainian servicemen and civilians, including servicemen from the armed forces of Ukraine, the National Guard, the Navy and the State Border Guard Service, had returned from the Russian captivity to Ukraine.
Most of them are soldiers and surgeons, but there are also officers. It is a really good day for Ukraine. Some of these warriors are defenders of Mariupol and Azovstal. Some of those freed today were not even initially known to be in captivity. They were considered missing. It is very important to keep hope alive. I thank the entire team that has worked and is working for the exchanges to continue. Budanov, Yermak, Usov, Maluk, Klimenko, and of course I thank each of our warriors on the front line who take the occupiers prisoner and replenish our exchange fund.
Lubinets and Zelensky noted that many of the Ukrainian prisoners of war had fought and had been captured on Zmyiny Island and in Mariupol, suggesting that these soldiers had been in Russian captivity for almost 2 years. An interesting fact for you. According to Russian sources, the previous swap in September 2022 was highly unpopular amongst Russians themselves, as 215 Ukrainian prisoners, including captured commanders of the Azov Brigade, whom Putin had personally initially promised to hold until the end of the war, were exchanged for only 55 Russian prisoners. But including one very important prisoner of war, if you like, and Putin's personal friend, the pro-Russian Ukrainian oligarch Viktor Medvedchuk. Just craving to learn what the Institute for the Study of War would say on that. Our biggest cities, the capital of Kyiv and city of Kharkiv, were bombarded by Russian missiles just recently. Major strikes on 29th of December 2023 and on 2nd of January, a New Year death wish from Russia, killing 4 people and wounded nearly 100. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Tuesday that Russia had launched almost 100 missiles of various types against Ukrainian targets and that at least 70 had been downed. To be more precise, 10 out of 10 Kinzhal missiles, 59 out of 70 Kh-type cruise missiles, and 3 out of 3 Caliber were downed. Neighboring Poland activated 2 pairs of F-16s fighter jets and an allied tanker in response to Russia's attack on Ukraine in order to ensure the security of Polish airspace. Russia will answer for every life taken away, Zelensky said.
Our Air Force, anti-aircraft gunners, mobile firing groups, thank you guys. And I thank everyone in the world who help us. Patriot, Iris-T, NASAMS, each of these systems has already saved at the very least hundreds of lives. And for every life taken, Russia will be held accountable.
And guess what? Russian Tsar also said that our Ukrainian retaliation attack on Russia's Belgorod city will not go unpunished. Look who's talking now. A bloody Soviet obscurantist, a Russian brutal thug at large, indicted by ICC, an outdated monstrosity Vladimir Putin, who instigated the biggest war in Europe since World War II, now says all crimes must be punished. It's like raping a woman, then suing her for scratching your face. Just mark my words, soon the Kremlin will start talking about how the West has abandoned Ukraine and the time for a peace, isn't it not, on Russian terms, of course, has come. Moreover, I have personally seen those text messages from an unknown Russian sender that were suggesting that maybe, would you only listen to that, maybe it is time for Ukraine and Russia to join forces and unleash a war on the West. Well, what really surprises me about Russia every time I hear about that Russian psychological operation, so-called PSYOPs, is the absolute absurdity of the message. A couple of years ago, there were, these Ukrainian top-secret genetically modified fighter geese that were able to fly faster than the fighter jet. You only imagine the face of the pilot of a fighter jet cruising at like 1,000 miles an hour and then seeing in the corner of his eyes a Ukrainian goose overtaking him. Then it was a Ukrainian flu designed in a secret underground NATO lab, a flu that searches for Russians amongst all Slavic nations and killing them. Now, this. As per Kremlin's wet dream, Ukraine and Russia should join forces and attack the world. This time I'll better leave it to your imagination. What is the next Russian absurdity level up, as mine is simply failing to predict it. Well, that was all for today, folks. It was me, Henry Keane, on UATV English, as usual, in yet another attempt to bring out truth in easy terms for the whole free world directly from Ukraine. If you like what we do for you, like, comment and subscribe in return. This week there were no questions and answers, but please do not hesitate to ask us a tricky question, and in our next weekly wrap-up I will do my best to answer it. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Tune for more shortly. Goodbye.